I haven't painted a Black Templar this year. That sounds crazy to say, but it's true. I've built a lot of Black Templar this year. Case in point, I have finally finished 10 of Games Workshop's new Bigger, Badder, Better Terminators, and they are glorious. Now, they're not my first experience with the new Terminators. I actually finished up a squad of the Leviathan Terminators, and I got these guys done quick, probably like 6 or 7 hours to get them all done, and that was my first experience with this kit, so I'm probably much faster now. How much faster? I bet I can get all 10 of these guys knocked out in 10 hours, 1 working day. I've painted a Black Templar before. I've painted 1 or 200, probably a lot more than that. I want a giant Terminator army, and I'm gonna make it happen. My first ever experience with Terminators was when I bought a copy of Space Hulk off a friend of mine back in high school. I kit bashed and converted these into Black Templar, and they have been through several layers of repainting. Then I bought my own copy of the old Terminators, and man, are they old. Look at their scrawny little chicken legs. Models aside though, these were one of the most powerful units in the game. Remember, this was pre-Centurions, pre-Gravis, pre-Primarchs. 10 Terminators was nigh unkillable. But then Leviathan rolled around, and we got the big boy version of the big boys. And once I saw these guys, I knew I couldn't go back, and I bought 2 more boxes just as soon as I possibly could. I would like to get all 10 done, 10 hours, 10 guys. It would be perfect, but I need to get 5 finished so that I can run 2 10-man bricks in my game this weekend. 10 old, 10 new. For my new Terminators, I went all out on these fellas. I cut out and glued 2 Black Templar upgrade frames worth of bits. And I've decided to never hold back. I glued on 2 back banners, and I've been hoarding cool Space Marine bits, saving them for a special occasion, but that's led to my army being kinda bland. No more. I use up every bit now. I have these guys dressed to the nines, and look at this cute little Psyker skull. And to help with painting efficiently, I have the heads off as I plan to paint these in a different color. Now before I start the clock, there's just a couple of little housekeeping things I wanna do to give myself the best possible chance of success. And that's not cheating, it's being efficient. On my Black Templar nowadays, I have a unique blend of contrast paint to get their armor ready, and I have to mix and color match this concoction every time, and that's dumb. It's about time I have this color on demand. Now, I know it's a combo of Black Templar, Leviathan Blue, and Lamian Medium, but I don't know the ratios, just the feels. So a healthy dollop of black, a good squirt of blue, and a lot of Lamian. I threw in a River Rock to help me shake it up, and I tried this mix on my Leviathan Terminator Captain. It's a little dark, so I put in more Lamian and gave it another go. It's a little lighter now, but it needs to be a little bluer, so more Leviathan. Trying that out now, it feels just about right. Although, I wasn't really thinking. I can't read the black Sharpie on top of black liquid, so I had to make up a label. I have the heads off for now, but I need to make sure they can go back on later, so I put a drop of Silly Putty in each neck to keep the plastic nice and clean and gluable, and then I primed every model black and then gave them a zenithal of white. Alright, I've got a table full of plastic in front of me that I am ready to turn into my Legion's veterans. And the way I'm going to achieve this is through batch painting. Now, I hate batch painting. I can't do batch painting, it's just too much. 20 boots, and then 10 right arms, and then 10 left arms, and then 10 Aquillas. It makes the painting really boring, but it is efficient. So I'm gonna batch paint, but I'm gonna make it little batches. I'm picking 3 duders. This should keep things moving and let me bounce around with different types of painting, enough to keep things interesting. I slobbered them all in Black Templar goo and then began picking out their other bits with more contrast paint. Rattling Grime on the weapons, Skeleton Horde and Wildwood on the shoulder pads and Purity Seals. I went a little bit too hard on the shoulders, so I had to brighten them back up with a little puff of white from the airbrush. Then I put Null Oil over all the white bits, the Imperialis on the chest, the candles, and the Crux Terminatus. To add in a little more contrast, I dry brushed the black armor with a blue-gray. 47 minutes in, and I've got the base coats all done on these 3 guys, and now I get to move on to the fun parts. Do a little free-handing and futzing to get them looking their best. I love doing the finishing touches. I get to make decisions. On the banner guy, I made his Power Fist, Chain Sword, and Cyclone Missile Launcher yellow, using Reikland Flesh Shade Wash to make a warm brown gradient. Then I sponged on a little bit more yellow on top to add in texture. On the gauntlet, I made red Hot Rod Flame streaks for my Templars. I keep the armor simple so I can have time to splash out on the heraldry, which makes my Knightly Order of Space Knights feel medieval. I put black hazard stripes on the Chain Fist and did another layer of yellow sponging to make this freehanding look like it's chipped and battle damaged. On their shields and knees, I did a checker pattern with red, blocking in my colors and highlighting them with Evil Sun Scarlet to make the contrast as intense as the yellow. On my Marines, I do half the bolt weapons yellow and half red. The Black Templar are a very odd chapter. They don't even consider themselves a chapter but a legion, and they are very individualistic in their heraldry. I painted a grid of fine lines over the last Power Fist, filling these in to make a checkerboard, and then I painted more hot red flames over the Cyclone missile launcher. This yellow and red palette is taken from classic Black Templar art, which is the inspiration for my entire collection. I finished up the purity seals with red highlights, bone color on the parchments, and I painted the flames of the candles with a gradient from red to yellow. I picked out the banner with more Nuln Oil and put yellow right in the middle. Their bodies are getting really close to done now. It's time for those heads. I pulled out the silly putty and took my Zenithal heads and glued these in with plastic glue so that I can poke and prod them a little bit while the glue still sets up to get them just perfect. And then I threw a thinned down layer of Nuln Oil over the heads. To do the eyes, I did one pass of a red wash, then picked out the eye with Evil Sun Scarlet, then another layer of red wash, letting it splash so it looks like it's glowing, then doing a dot of light red and a dot of light pink to give these eyes some character. 3 hours and 50 minutes, and I am feeling very confident because I have 3 very nice Terminators in front of me. And you've probably noticed these snazzy magnetic painting handles, and these are from today's sponsor, Cobalt Keep. Cobalt Keep makes the highest quality wargaming bases west of the Rockies. If I paint a model, it goes on a Cobalt Keep magnet base, not only for ease of transportation and display, but also because they work perfectly with Cobalt Keep painting hilts. These are rugged, comfy handles that come in 2 sizes. My favorite is the chunkier painting hilt extra large. My hands might not be extra large, but I enjoy the girth, especially for larger models. The painting hilt features a metal plate and keying system perfectly designed to lock a Cobalt Keep base into position and hold it securely. And speaking of security, these handles are tip resistant as is, but also come with stands you can slot your handles into for ultimate safety. Not even Sean could knock one of these over. If you're looking for the perfect system to hold your models safely and securely, there is nothing better than Cobalt Keep painting hilts. Shop with the code EOB15 to get 15% off your order of Cobalt Keep painting hilts. Now, these guys are about 90% done. I still need to do the bases and the decals. But I'm feeling like I already have the paint wet on my palette and a little bit more experience under my belt. If I roll right into the next 3, I might be able to shave off a little bit more time, and then I can use all of that extra time to knock out all of the bases and all the decals in one go. I am so glad I did small batches first because I learned a lot. Like my Templar recipe needed some more fine tuning, and that if I had just slapped this on all 10 bodies, they all would have been wrong. I fixed it now and it'll be perfect every time. I did all the same base coating I did before and it was a little quicker. I put the heads on and now I was ready to do the finishing touches. One thing I did on the first group that was inefficient is once I got to the painting, I floated around from detail to detail. These guys are all pretty similar. I decided to go color by color, hitting every yellow detail all at the same time across each guy. This way, there will be no back and forth with colors. I did every step of yellow and then every step of red, and this helped a lot with efficiency. It is called assembly line painting. One new step on this batch was the Power Sword. Terminator Sergeants can take a Power Sword instead of a Power Fist. I base coated this blue and made gradients going from black to white. While I did this, I also painted the second Captain's Sword. It just made sense as I already had the paints on my palette. 5 hours to get 6 Space Marine Terminators done. My crusade is growing and it feels good. I love that like my prediction was exactly right because man do I know Black Templar Space Marines. I don't waste a brushstroke. With that said though, I don't know exactly how long it's going to take to get the decals and bases done. To prep the surfaces for decals, I airbrushed on some gloss varnish just in the spots I want the decals. This smooths out the surface and helps the decal properly glue themselves down. Then I went back to my Black Templar decal sheet and found all the parts I want, and I soaked the decals one by one and applied them with Microsol and Microset decal solutions. Once I had a decal in the right spot, I crushed it flat with a wad of damp paper towel and a lot of force to squeeze out any trapped air. And you know what traps a lot of air? That's right, our Patreon. We have a new set of terrain every month, and this month we have the Pestilent Forest, a table's worth of grotesque yet beautiful terrain pieces that'll let you fight your tabletop battles surrounded by the corrupting influence of decay. Huge eye plants, cauldrons of pestilence, rotting creep, and the Great Maw make for a very chaotic environment. Once my decals are perfect, I gave them 2 more coats of gloss varnish to make the edges of the decal flush with the paint job, and then did some sponging over top with my original base coat colors to make them look damaged and worn like the armor. Then I varnished every guy with Vallejo Mecha Varnish to seal in the flavor. Then I put some silver paint onto my palette and got to sponging, making all their armor chipped and pitted. I do this last because any varnish will change the look of metallic paint, and I want the metallics as shiny as possible, but all my other colors to be protected. For the bases, I airbrushed a very watered down earthy brown paint, letting it splash onto the feet and legs, and then dry brush tan over top of this. It also helps that this is after the varnish, as I want a matte finish on the earth, but a satin finish on the model, and that slight difference in texture will make the models look better. The final touch was painting the rim of the base black with my Apple Barrel gloss black paint. 7 hours have elapsed, and I have finished exactly 6 Terminators. Now, on the one hand, that math doesn't quite add up for a Terminator an hour, but on the other hand, a box and a dude, 100% Dunyan ringsed, washed, varnished, with a magnet in the base and the rim painted black. That is phenomenal. Can I get the last 4 done in 3 hours? And on top of that, I'm getting kind of tired? We'll see. I started base coating all 4 remaining Terminators and then glued on their heads. Now, I could use the helmetless head. It does seem even more unreasonable that the guys wearing 10 tons of invincible armor would leave his face vulnerable, but I want the variety in the squad, so I decided to go for it. I base coated his head in beige, glazed magenta over his cheeks, and then highlighted his face and forehead with a light tan. I put Cadian flesh tone over everything and then reapplied the highlights to get a good face with a lot of contrast. I painted his mask white to fix up any sloppiness I created and then gave it a Nuln Oil wash. I glued it into place, and I do like a real face. It gives the model character. This is the 3rd wave of Terminators, and I feel like I have refined my process. The second batch was much quicker than the first, doing assembly line painting, but I did run into some problems. I missed a purity seal because of the assembly line painting. I wasn't looking for purity seals, I was looking for red things, and because I missed it during the base coating, I never saw it again, so I had to go back and probably lost a lot of the time I saved. On this 3rd set, I still assembly lined them, but I finished every red detail to completion individually and then moved on to the yellow and did the same. This worked better because I was focusing on making each object look its best, instead of looking for places to put an orangey highlight. Guys ever glue your glue to yourself? Ow. I have decided that I only have enough time to get 2 of the last 4 Terminators properly finished. I put on their decals and I was rapidly running out of time. I got 10 minutes left and I got 2 Terminators sitting in front of me. Gotta do the bases, I gotta do the chip pass, and I gotta paint base rim black, and then I'll have 2 more Crusaders for the chapter. I moved fast, blasting the models with watery paint, and I didn't even clean my airbrush, I just put it away. I used the hairdryer to try and speed up the drawing, but I can't just bake the models. I eventually moved on to the silver, throwing it onto my desk and dry brushing and sponging over the models as carefully as I could while furiously rushing to avoid any purity seals. Then I grabbed my biggest dry brush and blasted the sand with tan as the timer ran out. I didn't finish, but you know what? That is absolutely fine, because if we're being honest, I kinda didn't expect to. And 8 Terminators is fantastic. 8 Terminators in 10 hours is a Terminator every hour and 25 minutes. That is fabulous. Now it's built on the back of, these are like the 80th Space Marines I painted in exactly this color recipe, and I've have hundreds of Space Marines that are at least Black Templar color schemed, so I definitely had an advantage, but oh, it feels good because my Space Marines this year have been languishing. I've been working on all my other 40k armies, and so it felt really good to just grab a little bit of time I had, throw it as hard as I could into the Space Marines, and have something to show for it. This weekend, I'm gonna bring the 20 Terminators I have done to a game of 40k, and you know what? I'll wrap up the last 2, maybe buy another box and paint those 2, and then the week after that, I'll bring an army with 30 Terminators in it, and that'll be epic. And speaking of epic, our top supporters on Patreon get their names on members of the Great Crusade and join me in battle on the tabletop against the cruel Sean and diabolical Nick. So, should you guys take on a timed Warhammer challenge like this? I kinda think yeah. Why not? It really focuses you, you know, plan your podcast, meal prep, make a day of it, and just try. And if you don't finish, who cares? You're only competing against yourself. If you're painting 10 Terminators, you might be competing against me, but I'm not gonna tell. Thanks for watching.